I'm Chris with Marshall MOTOART, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to install a lift kit on your mid-size Polaris Ranger. Mid-sizes are kind of particular about the way that they're lifted because they're so narrow. Our kit is totally safe for your axles, CVs, CV boots. It will work with your stock wheels and tires. You can also run aftermarket wheels and tires. You do not have to run wheel spacers with my kit. I keep all of my kits in stock and I ship them the same day that you order them, so they get to you very quick. Let's take a look at the parts in the mid-size kit. These are the parts that come in your mid-size kit. You've got lift brackets for the rear. We have the lift spacers for the front strut assembly, and then your bag of hardware. You don't need wheel spacers, you don't need any extra parts. Everything you need to lift both the front and rear of your machine, 2.5 inches, comes in this kit. I'm going to be putting this lift kit on a crew, but the installation is the same for the standard or the crew in the mid-size. The 570 and all other models of the mid-size machines, the installation is the same. I'm going to remove the hood so that you can see more of what I'm doing. So you don't have to take the hood off to put this kit on. I just took it off so you can get a better look at what I'm doing here. So I'll show you now the parts that we're going to take apart and make this installation very easy. So what we'll end up doing is we'll remove this strut nut first, right here. Then we'll tip the whole assembly out to the side. Once we get it tipped out, then we'll go to these two bolts here that you can see that have Polaris, right here on this Polaris bracket. We'll loosen those two bolts, and then the whole strut assembly will slide out the top. We'll put on our lift bracket, and you'll see how simple it is. So first we'll remove this top strut nut. I'm going to use this little gun because I have one, but you can just use a simple ratchet or wrench. Take that loose, take the washer and all the stuff off the top here. And then we're going to jack it up. We're going to jack it up just enough so we can get this out away from the chassis. You don't want to go any more than you have to because you want to be careful not to pull the axle out of its socket. So don't go any higher with this than you absolutely need to. If you're concerned about the axle popping out, you can go to the outer edge of your wheel, and there's a big nut in the very center of the wheel that holds the CV axle. There's a cotter pin that goes through it and a big nut in the very center. And you can undo that, and that'll let the axle slide while you're doing the installation if you're concerned about popping your axle out. I don't do that. I've done a lot of them. It works very good this way as long as you're careful, and it saves a little bit of time. So that's how I'm going to do it in this part. So we'll jack it up just a little bit. I'm just using a simple floor jack. You see it coming up, clearing that hole. And again, we're going just enough so that we can tip this whole assembly out the side. See, so now I have that whole assembly tipped out to the side so I can undo the two pinch bolts and let this assembly slide out. This isn't under a lot of pressure. It's not going to go shooting or flying off, like a traditional car would or something. So nothing to worry about there. You don't need a spring compressor. You don't need any special tools. Just simple hand tools, and we'll get it handled. So we will undo these two bolts that pinch it into place. You don't have to take them all the way out. You just have to release the tension. We've got that tension off. Now the whole spring and strut will slide right out the top. There's a big washer here. Leave that in place where it was. Take the spacer that comes in the kit, set it right on top, then slide the strut back down inside. And then I just go ahead and push this assembly down. We can go up a little more with the jack. Right about there. Just push it down, tip it back over so it lines up with the hole, and then let down on the jack a little bit. guide that right back into the hole. Then I let the weight of the machine compress it back down. And then you want to make sure that the strut is pushed all the way back down in. You'll feel it bottom out. Once you do that, you'll go ahead and tighten these two bolts back up, put your nut back on the top, tighten everything up, and you're done. And then you'll do everything the same on the other side. So now that we have the lift kit installed on both sides, let's go ahead and just take a look at a couple of things here you want to check to make sure that are still proper. When you look down here at the bottom of the strut assembly, there's a hole in the bottom. If you feel right there up under the strut here, you should feel that strut all the way back down right there. And that'll make sure that you got the strut, this here, pushed all the way back down inside the strut assembly like it was before. Another thing you want to take a look at, make sure everything's good, is the CVs themselves. You can kind of see on this machine here, sometimes when you're putting it in, the CV will come pulled away from the differential a little bit. It's no big deal. You just want to check it after you do your initial installation. This one pulled away a little bit. It just simply pushes back in and you'll feel it click, and then it kind of locks into place. So just do that. Make sure, check that on both sides, and check those two things out. Make sure everything's tight, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the rear of the machine and put the rear of the lift on. So now I'll show you how to put on the rear lift kit. It's even easier than the front. We're going to remove both the lower shock bolts, and that's these bolts right here. And we'll do it on both sides at the same time, so that the sway bar doesn't interfere with anything. And I'll get those off, and then I'll show you how the brackets go in place. Okay, so I've removed both the rear shock bolts on the lower shock mount where it meets the A-arm. You can see on this side here I already put the lift bracket on, just to kind of show you how it goes into place. And then on this side I will show you exactly how the spacer, the shock, all of those things go into place. Okay, so you have this spacer that comes in the kit, then your bolt with the washer. The spacer goes down in here where the shock used to sit before. This can be a little bit tricky to get that and the bracket in place, but a little bit of fiddling, you'll get it in place. You'll notice that it has a closed part of the bracket. This is what I call the closed part. It's bent over, it's welded, and then this is the open part. On the 570s, the closed part goes towards the center, towards the differential. Only on the 570s does it do that. On all the other models of midsize, this closed part goes out towards the tire. And since this is a 570 machine, we're going to put the closed part towards the center of the machine. This bracket just kind of fits over in place like that. And then your spacer in place there in the center. The bolt goes through. Use the new bolt in the kit to go there. Then use your factory bolt that went through the shock before. Put it back through the shock. You'll put your nuts on the back side, tighten everything up, and the rear part of the lift kit is done then. Pretty simple. Okay, so there you have it. Easy installation of my 2.5-inch lift for the midsize Polaris Ranger. It gives you clearance for most 28-inch tires. You can stay with the stock tires if you want. Still looks great. We'll give you 2.5 inches more ground clearance. And as you can see, super easy to install. I build everything here in my shop. I'm always around if you have any questions. Give me a call. I can answer anything you can come up with. I build everything here. I keep everything in stock, and I try to ship out the same day that you order them. So you have them in just a couple of days. You can get you some more ground clearance. Go out and have some fun. I hope this answered any questions you have. If not, feel free to give me a call. Thanks so much.